So last week we had a big hiccup. Sorry about that. So we're gonna roll into another week and have multiple episodes with our guests. Our guest is or was known as a POS, and what a POS stood for was phone
PSO,
sex
PSO.
operator. PSO, PSO, phone sex
Otherwise, POS
operator.
is not good.
Yeah, point of sale, point of sale.
Point of service. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So we're gonna roll into. Let me introduce Maggie. She's gonna go by
Hello.
Maggie. Obviously, this is gonna be total anonymity on her behalf. You already
Definitely.
know what Bo and I look like, so there shouldn't be any surprises. So with that, take it away, Maggie.
Hi, my name is Maggie, and I was a phone sex operator for 24 years. And do I miss it? Money, yes.
It's always monetary, right?
Always, definitely.
Hang on a
So
second.
no worries. So I'll
Yeah, go
I'll,
ahead.
I'll start with the first question.
Sure.
Um, how old were you when you started doing this kind of job, and what kind of started the snowball to start rolling down the hill?
Well, when I first heard of, I never knew what phone sex was. My daughter was probably 6 months and I needed a job. And I found the newspaper. There was a position for a telemarketer work from home. So I called. The guy told me straight up, it's phone sex. I hope you don't have any issues with that. And of course, I was a prude. And I said, oh my God, no, 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 I don't think so. 3 years later, I'm telling my friend who has since passed, but I told my friend Vanessa, girl, hook me up with your friend. She had a friend that was working in San Francisco who was a phone sex operator. She was making great money. And even though I worked at a hospital, I wasn't making ends meet. And I didn't have any child support. I was a single mom, barely making it with a car that was on its last leg and furniture that didn't even have any legs. So what
Milk
I
crates.
exactly. So my friend just gave me the name of a company and persistence, and I got the job.
So when it was actually advertised, it was for telemarketing. Was
No,
that the job title?
that position was telemarketing, correct?
Oh,
But
okay.
the other companies, it was more word of mouth. They don't have. I never saw any positions for that um, type of work. Like nowadays, there's a website that gives those to you. You know, they're called PSOs, virtual talk. But back then, it was word of mouth.
Really? So it's a business. It's actually licensed and it's
Yes,
established as a
yes,
business.
yes, definitely.
I mean, besides that being established or somebody's copyrighted it by now, what is the biggest difference between then and now that you would see before you ended up quitting this line of work? What was the biggest difference between that and what we all know is virtual reality or the internet? What was the biggest difference between the two or the changes within those last 20 years?
Well, when I began it, there was no computer. Computers were very expensive and not very many people had those. So you would find phone numbers in newspapers or you would find phone numbers in magazines and matchbooks. And it was more, I know, it was discreet, somewhat discreet, but I mean, it was nowadays, you could go online and see a 30-second clip and have your moment versus, actually talking to somebody. So it's more obsolete today than it
Right.
was back then. Back then it was a popular thing, really popular.
And besides the financial gains on your guys' part, I mean, did you, how big of an effect do you, as the phone sex operator or the service provider, felt you had on the caller? I mean, was it an easy sell on what you guys were doing? It was
Not
playing
really.
per 10,
Yeah,
so it was
yeah.
difficult.
It was. You had certain customers that knew exactly what they wanted. So you got a heads up of what needed to be talked about. So you couldn't go on your own little tangent. customer wasn't happy, he'd hang up, and then you don't make the money you were going to make. Or if they hung up within a certain amount of time, you don't get paid.
So
Right.
You
So
know,
no, go ahead.
so when you say that they were kind of like queued up, was there someone else talking on the phone before you, or does it go
no,
straight to you
no. Well, it depends. Those calls that go straight to you, those are really hard because those are paid per minute.
per
A lot
minute?
per minute. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Good,
wasn't cheap, dude.
Yeah.
good
No.
lord.
It was like about $4 or $5 per minute. But then you got a lot of people who wouldn't pay their phone bill. They'd lose their phone bill, and then they'd have to get a phone under a different name. So I mean, they had choices. You know, you can skate,
Damn.
not pay, or you're going to pay and try to get some help because you're paying way too much. $500, $600 phone bill in the '90s is a lot of money.
Yeah.
It still is now. It still
True,
is
true,
now. But I mean,
definitely true.
landlines are part of your internet package anyway. But even then, you're right. I remember when I uh, tried the 900 numbers once, I ended up running up my mom's phone bill to about $500. And we
Yeah.
did had to terminate that phone line. We had to have somebody. So yeah, it elevated quick.
Well, see,
It
when I was doing it, there was different ways to for girls. You had, like you said, the 900. You
mhm.
have the direct call, which you call into a company, tell them what type of girl you want. The dispatcher will get the girl for you. She gives you all the information. You write it down to make sure you touch on every point. Or you have the chat room. I loved the chat room.
So was that a free for all or just one on one, or did you actually have everybody chatting at the same time?
Well, you didn't pay as much, but there was a lot of people in the chat room, and then they had girls.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah,
You're
so
right.
the
I
girls would
remember
be
those
there,
chat
they would
lines.
engage, yeah, exactly, they would engage the conversation, they would keep the guys on, but then it became a fiasco where the guys are like, "Hey, shut up, I'm talking to her." "No, no, I," then all of a sudden you're like, "Dude, come on, let's all talk." Then they're cussing at each other, they hang up, and you're all alone thinking, "Dang, what did I do?"
So basically what that was an online orgy, or a phone call orgy.
No, it wasn't an orgy, believe me. They these guys they became possessive. They're talking to a girl and another guy comes in, we have to greet them. Like, "Oh,
Uh,
wow, where are you guys at?" And you pretend like you're calling in too. So they don't know that you're not a real person, or excuse me, they don't know that you're a phone girl working for them. They think that you are in an area where they can come and meet you, and that's what they
Ah,
so,
okay, I get
you
it.
find out where they're at. "Oh, man, I'm in Los Angeles too," or, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm in San Francisco." But you have to know your surroundings because they will catch you.
Yeah, you need to be familiar with your environment. Okay, so
Exactly.
you guys were already on the line, and
Yeah,
you were just basically assuming or role playing with them, trying to follow along as much as
yeah,
possible.
exactly, exactly. And then it was
Wow.
fun. It was a business because when the other girls came to give you your break, they'd come online saying, "Oh, I'm so tired. Who's on the phone?" Then you knew it was time for you to go on your break. And then you'd come
Wow.
back, "Hey, who's on the phone?" Then they knew it's time for them to go. So,
So, it was interesting when the last time we had this conversation. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie. Do you remember the movie? It's Clint Eastwood, and I think it was either Dirty Harry or one of the them that he had filmed in San Francisco. And it was when there was a guy who had a bunch of he had a pen pal service. And what he was doing was having a bunch of ladies write notes to these guys in prison and then putting kiss marks with lipsticks, right?
uh-huh.
But the thing was, all it was a business, and the ladies that were doing writing the letters and sealing them with a kiss is what they
Mhm.
were doing. They were retired women just sitting down around a table, and he would give them this already written out note. He'd put an envelope in front of them, and he'd put lipstick on them, and they would kiss the envelope and then send it off. And the person or the pen pal who received the letter believed it was whatever they wanted to believe. A
Oh,
tall,
that's
blonde
funny.
Amazon woman, a
Yes,
Hispanic, a black. So
yes.
yeah, thinking about that, and then earlier when you said they would call in to request.
Yeah.
I mean that's like I've never been there, but I've seen a special with the Bunny Ranch in Nevada. the
Mustang
brothel.
Ranch.
Yeah, but yeah. Okay, so if you go into that, right, and the guy, you actually have a menu. There's a bunch of women standing in a row, and you actually get to pick whatever you want.
Yeah.
Quick little side note, real quick.
Yeah,
That was Air Force Amy that became real famous. Don't ask me how I know. I just,
I won't because your fiance is gonna listen.
I stayed up late at night sometimes back in Arizona.
Anyway, yeah, I bet you did. I bet it was just funny going into this conversation, and it just, like I said, it brought up a lot of things I was thinking about, and it's not that it was a lie on your guys' on the PSOs, but it was just, it was a convincing role. You had to sell
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
correct?
Exactly. And another thing too, the more versatile you are with your voice, if you could play younger, you could play older. I learned, well, I could never do a black girl. They have a beautiful, distinctive tone to them I could not attain, but
Right.
I was Asian, I was Puerto Rican, Australian, I was English.
Hey, papi, ven para acá.
No, you want to hear something funny? I was talking to this guy and I was being my Puerto Rican self. And he's
Right.
like, you know what? He goes, you got a cute voice. You remind me of Rosie Perez. And I'm like, but she's not cute. He's like, yeah, you sound like Rosie Perez. And after a while, just talking, I thought, God, I do sound like Rosie Perez.
In a
So
way, she just has more. She actually definitely has that little bit of a much more of a
yeah,
whiny to her voice. Your voice is not whiny,
it
but
does when I want it to be, believe me.
oh,
No,
okay,
the funny thing was is I practiced the Puerto Rican accent with that white man can't jump. So I guess I
uh,
did.
okay. I
Q
remember
for
the
the letter
movie.
Q. Q for
Yeah,
Quins.
Wow.
and he's sold it, huh?
Yeah, certain people, certain people. My favorite and was very popular was Kai, my Japanese girl. And this is a funny little
Her name
story. Her name
was
is Kai,
Kai.
Kai. And I would, I was really soft and, I would do my call and, oh, hi, this is Kai. How are you? Oh, that's
Oh
nice.
wow.
You sound so handsome. So one time I'm talking to this guy and he says to me in Japanese, la 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 la. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I don't know what to say. And he says, well, aren't you going to respond? I said, I'm sorry. I get in trouble if I talk my language. I'm so sorry. So I didn't
Wow.
know what to do. I was like, oh my God, he's going to catch me. And I don't want to be caught.
Right. And he believed it.
I don't know because I think we didn't stay on the call that long.
You sound like an anime character, to be honest.
No
Yeah. Now
way.
it'd be anime, correct?
Back then it wasn't. I did. It was A before anime.
Very
AB.
true. So
AA.
as far, I mean, as you progressed, I mean, what
Mhm.
type of research or what type of classes or even interacting with other friends did you do to improve
My accents?
the accents, your conversations, your a better way of reading or understanding what the
Accents,
caller
yeah.
wanted?
Accents, I was in drama. Your fiance can
Uh,
attest. I am the biggest ham. I love to act. I love to talk. I always do accents all the time. So you have to be somebody who is definitely going to not want to back down. You're going to want to make, the voice. And then it becomes like a challenge to myself. I'm going to keep that guy on for a longer time. So I'm going to make my accent really good. Then you also think of other things to talk about because a lot of times a lot of people think phone sex is get on the phone, moan groan, you're done. No, you've got to have a little, guys want a little bit of a talk. you know After the talk, then it comes down to the business, and then after they're done, a lot of guys will just hang up, but then you have those guys that want to linger around and talk a little bit more.
So,
So huh Go ahead.
sorry. With that being said, was this like full like hours worth of conversations that
No,
you would have with
no,
someone?
no. How I look at it is the men were already, when they call into a company, they already know what they want.
Hmm.
So they're already worked up. So once they hear the beautiful voice, sometimes they'll say, well, yeah, what do you look like? And well, you sound really pretty. And then they kind of get into it. Some guys don't last, some guys do last. And, Then when you're done, like I said, a lot of guys will just hang up. Some guys will want to talk and get to know you a little bit more. So it depends on the call. Depends on the
So
call.
so it was like virtual cuddling after you were done.
On their part.
Yeah, right. You didn't do this like in a quarter that you had to make a quota made every week or every month. You did it as consistent as it needed to be and however time consuming as it had to be, correct?
Some companies you had a quota that you had to be on
Oh,
a certain amount of times. Um, I liked the money so much I was on a lot. On my days off, I was on the phone for 24 hours. I was taking call all the time. I'd come home from work and I'd take calls because you like the money. I look at it this way: the more you talk, the more you make. No calls, no money. So, you know, you have to choose. Do you want to make a nice check or do you want a skimpy check?
oh yeah, a nice check would be it's always
Word.
great.
Yep.
What was
Yeah.
if you don't mind me asking, what
No,
was the biggest
not at all.
payday that you had during this job?
The biggest, when I worked as a dispatcher, I got paid weekly. And
Really?
yeah, I made $2,300 a week or more, depends. The more I signed on as a normal phone girl, I would make extra money.
And this is
So
in the 90s, correct?
no, 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 this is in the 2000s.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
still, that's
I was a
good money.
dispatcher in 2000. Was it 2004 to 2014, 2015? I was a dispatcher.
I knew you then.
Yeah, you probably did.
No, no, you didn't.
I didn't know you then.
I don't think we met until a little while ago. Yeah.
No, because we've been together going on 8 years now. 2012 or 20.
I think I met you more, maybe I may have seen you, but I met you when I came out of the hospital, remember?
Oh, that's right. I do
Yes.
remember
Give me
that.
some Coke.
Yeah.
Did
Hey, Jim,
yeah,
we can still hear you.
sorry.
It's
Sorry. Were you done asking? I'm sorry.
it's okay.
I was just well, going back to the amount of money. I mean, obviously you had to spend so much time, and I'm sure as time
Yes, yes,
progressed, did it get rough?
yes.
Did it wear on you emotionally, physically? I mean, how rough was the lifestyle prior to the beginning to where you actually just said, "I'm done"?
Um, it was hard because I had to weigh between spending time with my kids and making money.
Yeah.
And being a single mom, I wanted my kids to have everything. So I did work a lot. I and I feel horrible about this now that my children are adults. I kind of put work ahead of them. So we always had money coming in.
Well, I mean, you can't be blamed for that. I mean, I was raised by a
Well,
single mom as well.
yeah, but you know what though? Sometimes I could have taken some time off. You know, I look
Yeah.
back, I look back and I see what I did, but my kids had everything they needed. We had a home, we bought a home. I mean, we had a lot. And, but also too, you get so tired that when it's not fun anymore, that's when it becomes bad. That's when you're not doing the quality calls, you
Did
know.
you have one child or one adult child now, you
I
said?
have I have two.
Two.
Both my children are adults.
Did this type of once they realized what you were doing, I don't know what age or what was there an impact on them coming up or growing up? And then did they was it an issue between you and them?
No, because when I did a call, they were away from me. They could not hear anything. I would never let them in the bedroom when I did calls. Um, as they got older, it was my mom's on the phone. She's making no money. So it didn't never bothered them, but others I could see it bothering other people. You know what I mean? I could see kids getting affected. I was very fortunate that my children were not affected.
Yeah. So you actually did have a friendship or bond with other PSOs to where you actually were to have shop talk per se.
Um, the other
Last night I
companies,
had. Go ahead.
there were some companies you never talk to the girls, only to go on a break and then to take them out of the chat room. I never knew other girls. And that's the benefit. When I was a dispatcher, that's when I was my best, because when you do calls for a company and you don't talk to other girls, you don't know how to do calls. You assume what you're doing is great. It's not till you work for a dispatching company. Well, me, when I worked for the dispatching company, I got to hear everybody do calls because I had a monitor. And I was like,
Mm.
oh my God, they're good. So I would start hearing all these girls. Go ahead.
So per each call, is there technically two people listening to it? Is there the PSO herself with the dispatcher just listening in to with
Well,
the
I don't,
caller?
you're not glued to the phone, because you have to realize too that we have a lot of people who may say things or do things that are not proper. And so, certain fetishes, certain calls, you have to make sure that there's nothing going on to where you need to disconnect the call. Number one, girls giving personal information.
Mm.
Number two, the caller may be engaged in something that's illegal, and we have to disconnect the call right away. So we do things like that. So yeah, you're listening, but you're picking up. I had 6 phones. So I was
Oh,
picking
wow.
up, listening, putting it down, listening to another call, answering the phone, getting his credit cards. I was doing everything.
So do you think a lot of the other PSOs might have slipped through some information and then
Oh yeah.
probably had a private hookup and made extra money that way?
No, believe me,
Oh,
not with the customers that we had.
okay.
But
But
no, yeah, you're right though. Some girls, I did catch a girl that was just a conversation she had with the customer. I knew that they had seen each other in real life. And yeah,
oh,
and then one of our other dispatchers, I wasn't part, I had nothing to do with it, but one of our other dispatchers, because this was a big company that I worked for, she was keeping track of all the customers, and she started opening up her own little business. So she stole a lot of the clients from the uh, company. So I wasn't into that, because I look at it this way, karma, and this is not what I want to do. I was in college when I was when I was working as a dispatcher. So,
yeah.
I'm not about stealing from somebody who worked hard to build it up where it was.
So I understand you had to monitor a bunch of the phone calls or do
Hmm.
your best to, but before you were dispatched, were you ever in a position where you actually had to, I'm sure it would have been easier just to hang up, but to where the call was so either disgusting or you didn't approve to where you
Hmm.
actually thought about maybe enforcing or calling the law
Yes.
or really?
Yeah. There was one customer, and I wish I would have kept his phone number and his name. He out of mind, out of sight.
Yeah.
Um, he was disgusting. The things that he would say, I would pray that it was just a fantasy he was talking about. I prayed that he didn't do anything he talked about. And it would just really hurt me. It would hurt me, and I would hate when they would give them to me, because I don't know if he just knew I hated talking to him, so he would choose my name. But yep, he'd pick Maggie, and I'd have to deal with it. And then with my boss that I worked for the last time for 10 years, if you said no, she would get mad at you, and then she would mess with your money. She wouldn't give you any calls, or you'd be on, you call in to sign in, and she wouldn't put your name up. So, if you're not making calls, you're not making money.
Oh, wow. So the dispatcher had to either, meaning the
Mhm.
dispatcher, had a direct line to you or any other
Yes.
PSOs, or so it wasn't just a random pickoff.
No,
I
no.
called, well, I want to talk to Maggie today, and he would directly link us up together. It was like that.
I had 6 phones, and I had three-way calling. So when you want to talk to Maggie, I call the customer back and I tell them, hello, okay, let me get you with Maggie. Then I would three-way, well, of course, three with somebody else. And then I'd make sure they answered, and then I put it down, and then I have my little clock I'd have to watch.
Wow.
Yeah. It's when you're a dispatcher, you're not just, getting calls out. You're getting calls, you're running credit cards, customers, are complaining, so you got to do the call for them. You have to, the girl got paid, but then you have to do the call to finish them off because, oh, I didn't get, she distracted me, oh, there was a knock at the door, I couldn't finish, you have to finish me now. And they knew that the dispatchers would have to finish off, and it was, to me, it was a crock of crap, but I made the money and I did it. But still, I mean, there was just a lot of hoops you have to jump through.
If let's just say that they were dissatisfied, was it kind of like a restaurant or any type of business where here's my receipt, can I get my money back? Was that kind of like the same thing?
What customers would do if they weren't happy is that they would call, of course, they call and complain, and we would do what we could to make them happy. Then you've got those customers who are vindictive that would call the credit card company and say, yeah, I want to charge back. Because we would sell ourselves as an internet purchase company, that they're buying things through the internet. And so the guys would say, yeah, I never got my item, I want to charge back. And the more you charged back, you could lose your credit card business license with them. Like, you could get suspended. You can't take any Visas, or you can't take any MasterCards, or you can't take any American Expresses.
Damn,
And
so
so
they were
that dampers a lot. So we kissed a lot of butt. We did what a lot of guys wanted. They have the upper hand.
Yeah, you guys were Amazon before Amazon.
We were.
I mean, I'm sure.
And we delivered a lot faster. No.
I'm sure. Oh, of course. Of course. Did you? So, on our previous conversation, you had mentioned that you'd spoke to someone for an extended period of time. Now, did you ever receive a consistent phone call with somebody that you actually gained some sort of emotional attachment or feelings toward?
Yeah. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm still friends with the person.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we're really good friends. Yeah, he traveled for a living.
Mhm.
And so he was a customer that would call for hours on end. And it was a lot of good money. I got a lot of nice presents. So yeah, you do get attached. There was one that I knew that had cancer, and but I didn't want to give them personal information like my phone number, nor did I want to take their phone number down, because you're not a phone sex operator all the time, you know.
Right. Right.
And I didn't want to have to do that on my off time. I wanted to have a friendship, but these guys, I don't think that they would understand that. So I always kept it professional.
Well, you kind of have to. I mean, it would
Yeah.
probably. I mean, emotions are emotions. I don't. I can understand sitting behind a phone. You could easily detach that way, but once you have intimate conversation, you can start generating. It's in your nature to start generate feelings.
Well, not only that too, I told so many lies by that time. How is it going to be that, yeah, I'm not a nurse.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not a college student. I'm actually in my early 40s. I'm not 18.
Right. Right.
Because when you're telling lies, they already have an idea who you are. They think who you are. And you don't want to break that. You don't want to break that commodity where you're going to have to tell them, no, I'm not Maggie. No, I'm not Tara. No, I'm not that person who we've talked for so many years. You think I am. You know what I mean? I mean, that's
Right.
kind of embarrassing. I would think
No,
it's embarrassing.
you're right. I would have. I mean, it kind of. Do we need to stop?
no, we still got about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
Did it ever? I mean, I can understand it becoming embarrassing, but did it ever? Was there ever a moment where you may have had a relationship, not knowing where this person may have called in from or lived, but being out and about, say you were shopping or running errands, or then you heard a voice that may have sounded familiar, that at any point you ever stop in
Oh,
your
that's a
tracks and
good
be like,
question.
oh, wait a minute, is that so-and-so?
Yeah, voices do sound familiar, but let
Yeah.
me tell you something. There was this customer who used to be dominated, and it was a little sissy boy. I ended up meeting, no, he is an attorney, and I ended up using him. I knew his name. He saw, because I had to write down where I last worked, and I wrote the name of the company down, and he looked at me, looked at the name, looked at me, and he says, okay. He says, let's keep it professional. I said, I am if you are. And that was it. That's all we said.
Damn.
And I
Did
thought
you-
to myself, he is gorgeous. Why are you calling? Dude, you
Are you
wasted all that
serious?
money. Oh, God, he was beautiful. Yeah, I don't know why he called us. Yeah, I'm sure
No
he got that
way.
for real. Oh, yeah.
So, okay, we'll end with that question, and we'll pick up with that. Go ahead and stop it.